he's actually in IGL where I have the unique position, as I've mentioned many times. I actually twice got to listen to your guys' comms because I heard you at Blast because we had the Blast comms. So that was at the beginning of the team. And then I heard you in the Flashpoint period because we obviously had the comms there too. So unlike a lot of other players, I'm not speculative. I've actually heard these Sky call games. And listen, obviously I have my own opinion. I think he's fucking legit as fuck, mate. Like, as I told people, I think I did a tweet like this at Flashpoint too. I just said, like, Aleksib is the truth. Like, when I listened to his comms, he seemed like he really had, like he's one of those IGLs that looks like he has the wall hack and just knows what the other team's doing, and that's like the patterns in his mind. Like, give me your thoughts on when you played with him. What's IGL? What is Aleksib like as an IGL?
I think it's pretty true what you said. Like, he has a really good mind for the game. You know, when he's in his zone, he's really good at reading the opponents. He's really good at deciding what strats is the best for this specific round. But I always feel like one thing that's a little bit overblown is the micromanagement aspect. Obviously, I do agree. Like, we probably didn't have the most vocal team back then. You know, we had like Isa on the team who didn't maybe say too much. Mantu maybe didn't say too much. So obviously, like, if we have a 3-on-3 situation where Aleksib is dead, for example, and he's like spectating, if nobody is saying anything, then obviously, like, he feels like the round is probably going to be lost if he doesn't like interfere and jump in and starts like micromanaging. But I don't think it's because he wants to micromanage as an in-game leader, you know? Like, let's say he had 4 players, like 3-4 players who could actually talk a lot on their own. I don't think he would do this micromanagement style. So I really think it depends on the players he has. And I think because people heard that 1 or 2 rounds where he actually did the micromanaging, then people made it up as though he's like only doing micromanaging, and you know,
they made it sound like that's his style and he wants to do that. Yeah, whereas I always got the vibe as well. He's doing that because it's Issa. He's not going to say that to Nico. There's no way he's telling Nico that.
Yeah, and he didn't. I think it hurt his reputation a little bit, maybe, that people think he's like one-sided in this aspect, that he's not able to call a little bit more freely. But, you know, in terms of what went wrong in G2, I actually have no idea. I think it's so hard to say from the outside when you didn't hear the comms and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of a team. I think it's super tough to know exactly what went wrong. Like, it's so hard to calculate, like, how much of it is Aleksib's fault, how much is like the management, like his teammates. It's so hard. It's probably like a mix of everything. You know, I never think it's like only one person's fault if a team is not doing well, right? But yeah, I did enjoy playing with him. I think he's a super smart guy, really good, has a really good mind for the game, as you said before. You know, at times when he was in the zone and he was like confident in his own calling, it did feel like he had wall hack at times. You know, he could make the perfect decision in a round where it just really feels good when you win those type of rounds, right?
But they also they expect the IGL to be the leader as well. You have to sort of be that. So in Ents, wasn't it more like not essentially Alu was the captain, right? Like Aleksib was the tactician. That was it. Kind of like naturally, it felt to me like it was always Alu's team to some degree, right? He had he was the emotional leader.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I mean, he was the veteran of the team, so naturally he was the captain of the team. But of course, there's some kind of a click there when the tactician or the IGL is the different guy. But like I earlier said, I feel like they never even probably appreciated the kind of symbiosis they had going on there and kind of what they both brought on the table in terms of leadership and how the team ran at the time. But also, Aleksib as a person also is very persistent, has a very strong vision of how he feels, you know, the game should go, but it also showcases in him as an individual and how outspoken he is. I mean, you can probably tell from all the interviews and stuff he's done over the years, right? And then you have Alu, who's probably not as outspoken as a person, but also is very, very like a strong personality, needs his space. He's going to have these moments where he's going to have his say. He's going to take the reins when need be sometimes. And yeah, I think that end of the day, when you look at it from this perspective now, a couple of years later, I don't think they would realize how good they had it.
By this info, I'm making a good call to like, okay, guys, do this here, and insta-rotate to B, let's just go out of monster with flashes, and we win the round solely because of that. And maybe it was you could argue, is it my mid-game call or is it Balde's mid-game call? Yeah. But it's like a team fucking, it's like a team decision and team, how a team should work, right?
Sure.
Have these players. So on some teams, on some IGLs, it might be way harder if they are doing every single mid-game call, teammates fully silent, and not giving this crucial info of what they can do late round. And then you will fail most of your mid-game calls, or you will not have as insane reach, right? But then again, I can say, with ends, when I got kicked, right? And I had a talk with the coach. The next day, I just wanted to call to Twista. And I just asked him, bro, it's the last time we talk. I appreciate you, blah, blah, blah. Is there something, can you tell me something that I can start to learn from to be better on the next team? And then one of the topics was in-game leading, obviously. In every fucking IGL, it's the in-game leading always. But, mid-game calling.
Yes, there you go. Mid-round calling. I mean, listen, that's almost like a meme that you were like, what can I work on? He's like, well, you could work on, in-game leading, fragging, headshot, just like that pasta or something on Reddit or something. Yeah. We get what you mean, though, mid-round calling, yeah.
Mid-round calling.
I can actually spin this back to the Aleksib topic, though, because here's another reason, Legear, that you know that this guy is a fucking beast. And by the way, if people don't know, I haven't spent 20 years of my career dissing people and calling them overrated to now start kissing people's asses. If I think people are good, they're actually fucking good. Just trust and believe, player. So the reason why this guy has to be a beast, Legear, is, first of all, not only is he Finnish, which is the most antisocial fucking country of all time. I'm pretty sure they're just aliens from another planet that just came in, made a colony, outside of Russia or something, and then just escaped from a Soviet lab or something in about 1912 or whatever it was. But anyway, that's just my pet theory. So he comes into this team, right? Think about this as well. I'm saying he's one of the best. This is why I made that tweet where I said he's the most underrated IGL in the world. I wasn't saying that just for no reason. Think about this. Imagine being really good at mid-round calling when not only is everyone on your team except maybe Mantu speaking their second language, but because they're speaking their second language, you're getting the information slower. Yanko made this point in my reflections about why he thought Nico was a good IGL, which obviously I have my own disputes with, but this point was a good point. He said the thing he was impressed with about Nico in FaZe was that in moments where if you take 3 seconds to make the right call, it becomes the wrong call, Nico was making the call really quick, because obviously as an individual player, he knew what to do. That's an example of what I'm talking about. If you're getting comms Issa doesn't have super fluent English. He's got all right English, Valde obviously wants to speak Danish if he could. Aleksib's thinking in Finnish half the time, I'm sure. So, to actually be able to do the calls, I bet it's way trickier than if you're I'm sure when God B's in an all-German team, that's paradise to the sky, So then let's keep going. You go up, do all right online. You go to IEM Summer. How the hell do you finish second with this lineup at IEM Summer? Remember, look at all the teams here. You've got NIP with Device, one of the better teams. Zero on Vitality. Gambit is the dominant team. You got Heroic, it's already a very strong online team. You got Virtus Pro with Yekindar and Jim, solid set of players, right? You've got G2 with Nico Hunter, one of the top teams. And then you got OG's lineup. How on earth can you finish second in this field? I tell you how, someone like Aleksib, I've heard his comms. He knows exactly what he's doing. As long as people don't get in his way, and at this point he's kicked one of them, NBK. Oh, now he has more control, even maybe with potentially a slightly more skill, but not that great roster still. So let's go and look what he did. They beat OG, they beat NIP, who had Device, one of the best AWPers in the world. He has Mantu, that's his AWPer. Then he goes against Virtus Pro. This is supposed to be one of the better teams in the world. 2-0 them. 2-zip, one of the hardest teams to play against. Aleksib called against them, didn't he? He beat EG, who has a mix of players that are just up and down. They're not that great already at this point in time, but you beat him and you convincingly beat him on your maps. You only barely lost the first map. You go to the playoffs. You beat Vitality, who has Zero. Just beat them straight up, 2-1. And in the final, you lose to Gambit. Yeah, it's Gambit. Gambit was unbeatable at this point in time. Look at the fucking numbers they're dropping. And then look what Aleksib's working with. By the way, you'll all say Flames was the most skilled player on the team, right? Minus 28. Less kills than Aleksib. Worse stats than Aleksib. Nico. 4 of them are minuses, mate. What are you supposed to do? We came second in this fucking tournament. Let's have a look at 2021. You started 7th. But by here, we're on LAN. You started 7th. Yeah, you dropped. So you kicked MBK and you benched Issa. Yeah, you have initial problems. You start to get some okay. Look, you're back to 16th then you're at number 10 by the time we get to June. Few months and you're back to 10 in the world with no top 20 players. Then you drop a little bit. The worst you go is 16th. You come right back 10. Then you go up to 9th. Then you spike right before the major in October at 6th in the world again with this lineup. Nico, Valde, Mantu, Flames. Who the fuck? We started playing lands now, boys. How the hell is he 6th in the world in 2020 with the whack lineup? 6th in the world in 2021 with a whack lineup. And yeah, he ends the year, it goes to 19, it dips up and he goes to 17th and he leaves. By the way, he found the team, they were 27th. He ended with them as 17th after all the ups and downs. And look at that curve. If you just make a line, by the way, the line goes up to there. Goes from here to here, doesn't it? And obviously the peak, that's a very legit line for the players who work in this an online era. If you also want to go a step further, the other person to replace would be like MBK. Like, he's not giving you big numbers. He's mainly there if he can fit the team well, which seems like maybe 67% of the time it looks like he does, but it looks like sometimes he has his issues or his clashes with Aleksib in terms of how they're seeing the game. The comms I've alluded to in this video, and I've alluded to every time I talk about the squad, because they're a team I got heard from a lot. Consider this. I heard them in early 2020 when they're like a month, 2 months old, and they had massive problems with the comms. And as I said, even then, Aleksib, it's when he basically literally told people, like, shut the fuck up, and then he would call every round. That was when they do those God tier T-side Inferno comebacks. They still had those issues in November of 2020. Now, that coach, Rugger's obviously worked on this. Obviously, Aleksib must have had these conversations in team conversations. I've talked to some of the players, even publicly. They are clearly aware of some of these issues. They just haven't been able to resolve it. So in my opinion, that's a personnel issue. You're not spending 2 years just to fix the fucking comms in your team, right? These are some quite messy comms, despite the fact one player, at least in the comms, was given amazing calls. Now, I will say, one thing I've been trying to think about is maybe one of the reasons why Aleksib doesn't just start the game telling people to shut up is maybe he needs to get a feel for the game before he gets that confidence in his reads to tell someone, I'm going to talk a lot right now, you're not going to talk at all. Maybe he's like a Stanislaw in that sense, where sometimes Stanislaw takes a few rounds and he looks really lost, and then when he hits it, flips that switch with the mid-rounds, then all of a sudden he takes over the game. Maybe some of that's going on. So I think this roster makes a lot of sense for Aleksib and with Aleksib. Aleksib is a good IGL when he can call his style. I think he will be able to do that in this team. He has Broland to be a star, potentially develop even more and go back to the level he was in 2019 Fnatic. By the way, I think he can still be a truly great player in Swedish and Scandinavian Counter-Strike. He has Hampus, who showed us as an IGL, a bit like Playmeth, he's a bit wonky, but I tell you what, he's a really unique and good lurker with good fragging, a very unique mind for the game, but that's clearly is effective. And you see his style consistently works on both T and on CT with CT pushes, aggression, flanks. And he gives you a whole extra dimension when you're an IGL, because he can do that, put pressure on the map, and he can be your secondary caller. Now, he's also not the secondary caller that's going to overrule you, so I think this is even better. He's not going to do what maybe an Alu or an Eco might have done to an Aleksib. He's going to chill back and he's going to give suggestions, or he's going to make a call of what he individually is doing in the round or is going to do. That's where I could see the two mentally connecting, and it could work out. It could be like a StarCraft Archon in that particular analogy. These aren't players who are going to be like pretty much, I've heard the comments before. The most notorious lineup was the one where it was like NBK would be giving his thoughts. Even Valde would say some shit like, oh, what about this? It's like, there's like 3 people doing that, and then on the side Issa would just be saying stuff as well, like, I'm gonna go out long, and like, and it's not a joke, I've for real heard Aleksib many times just be like, okay, everyone shut up, right? And it's just so you could call like whatever he's going to call. Everyone needs a support network, and mine is, of course, my Patreon community, the Scrominati, who in many ways, they're the Sonny to my Cher, saying, I got you, babe. So this video and all the others on my channel were kindly supported by the following names: Ahmed Hadjou, Mac Pugnatio Rajcula, Adam Tomlin, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Toucan, and you know it. Jerky's Minion, my main man, always going to be referenced, one of the best patrons of all time. Would you like to ask a question in my AMA? Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest to say on my channel? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming Reflections and Talk to Thorin interviews are? Maybe you want to do one of those long discussions where you get to set the topics we talk about. Well, if any of these or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Scluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.